Hello, everybody. Welcome to the February 23rd Planning Commission meeting for the City of Cupertino. Let's call this meeting to order. Let's do a roll call.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Saxena?
Yes.
Commissioner Capil? Vice Chair Sharf?
Here.
Chair Wong?
Present. I see Commissioner Capil has arrived.
Commissioner Capil, do we have?
Yep.
And it looks like Muddy Patla is absent at this time.
Okay. All right. Oh, we do have a roll call. This meeting is being conducted pursuant to provisions of the Brown Act and a recent executive order issued by the governor to facilitate teleconferencing to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission at public meetings. Ordinarily, the Brown Act sets strict rules for teleconferencing. The governor's executive order has suspended these rules. The executive order does require that we continue to notice meetings in advance. The city has met all the applicable notice requirements. Members of the public may offer public comment by email to planningcommission@cupertino.org prior to the close of the public comment period for each agenda item. Staff will share all such comments with the commission committee, subject to the time limits applicable to public comment, and make them part of the record. And I believe our last commissioner's here. Let's do a quick roll call there. So should we add him? I believe Mooney is here, so I see something. Mooney, are you in?
You do.
I don't know. Okay, maybe we need to promote him, or is it attendee somewhere?
I just brought him over.
Oh,
Okay, he's good. Very, very good. All right, so we do have full quorum here, and let's make that official.
Yeah. Hey, so can I make a request? If I might? Right.
Yeah, jump in. Please go ahead.
So I joined using the meeting ID on my calendar, and it let me in the general pool. So I would like to see the calendar to reflect the link for the commissioners. It's the same problem I had when I was in a bike commission.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah, each commissioner is sent their own individual link for them to use so that the system recognizes you as you when you log in and knows to put you as a panelist as opposed to an attendee.
Okay.
So the public gets the regular link to sign in, which is what you use, but you get your own individual email from the video team to sign in, and there's a place on there that you can add it to your calendar.
Yeah, with so many emails, it's
I have a
hard to fish out. Because we get a notification for everybody that registered to speak. So we get so many, planning commission meeting notices. So it's hard to fish out, which one is, Anyway, we can talk it.
Right. Yeah. And our personal link comes very early in the weekend. It's way down in hundreds of emails. So maybe, if it's possible to put our specific link in our calendar, that would be great. If that's
I think we can probably do that, and I think that makes sense. Let's take that offline and do that with the staff individually. So
I have a comment too on this one. Earlier, the link used to come with a title, video division, something. This time it is coming with something else. So it's very difficult to figure out that where is that Zoom link is, and it is hundreds of emails. How do we figure this out? I mean, you have to be. I think one suggestion is that the title of the mail should be consistent. If it is for the Zoom link, it should be video division. If it is video division all the time, or it should be whatever it is. It has to be something which is same all the time. Not for the previous week it was different, and this week it's something else. I believe it is. It's called Reminder Cupertino Planning something. Now, how do we figure this out?
The email still, the email was video division before, and now it's just says planning commission.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's address that later into the meeting, but we have you both here, and I'm going to jump straight into the agenda items if possible. And before we do that, I believe we have oral communications and public comment. So let's move there. Staff, have you received any public comment on the items by email?
Yes, we've received 3 written communications. They were all forwarded to you earlier under the group planning commission email address. So they would be there and they'll be included in the packet tomorrow after the meeting.
Okay, and as a reminder to the team, please do not reply all to that. That will get you seriously into the violation of the Brown Act. So if you do reply individually as needed to, and no more than 2 commission members. With that, do we have any oral communications and comments from the audience?
Ray, wait,
We need to approve the minutes, please.
Okay, sorry, I thought we were doing the oral communications first. So
no, I thought first we're doing the ceremonial matters and presentations.
Oh, I
yes.
apologize. I'm going with the script for the chair that was sent out. So it says chair, then oral communications, public comment, then oral communications comment period. So apologies.
The agenda, we need you to, on the agenda. The chair is not going to be able to join us, or excuse me, the city clerk is not going to be able to join us this evening. So she has asked that we postpone the ceremonial matters item 1 to the next planning commission meeting in March.
So item 1 will be postponed, and let's go to the minutes then. Sorry, approval of minutes, number 2. So draft minutes of the January 26, 2021 minutes. Recommended action, approve or modify the draft minutes of January 26, 2021. We have those that are left here to vote for it. I guess that's Commissioner Saxena, myself, and Commissioner Takahashi has approved the minutes on his behalf. Let's see. So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Chair, if I may, I actually think Commissioner Saxena may have been absent on that date, and Commissioner Capillo was present.
Capillo was present as well, yes.
I think Commissioner Saxena was not there according to the minutes. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yes, he was for the other one. Correct. So, okay. Well, is there a motion to approve the minutes? I guess I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, and I'll need a second for either. Well, it's probably going to have to come from Commissioner Capillo. So.
Yeah, I second it. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
you seconded it? Okay. Any modifications or edits to that?
No, I can't think of at this point.
Okay, I have none either. So let's do a roll call vote on the minutes then.
Okay, Commissioner Capillo?
Yeah, I approved the minutes.
Commissioner Saxena?
Abstain.
Vice Chair Sharp?
Abstain.
Commissioner Mudipatna?
Abstain.
Chair Wong?
Approve, so.
And we do have the written approval from former Commissioner Takahashi. Minutes are approved.
Okay. Item number 3, subject draft minutes of February 9th, 2021. Recommended action, approve or modify the draft minutes of February 9th, 2021. And I believe we were all there. So give you guys a chance to read the minutes before someone makes a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th, 2021.
I second it. I read it.
Okay, any discussion? Anyone have any edits, any comments? Okay, let's do a vote.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Madipatla?
Yes.
Commissioner Saxena?
I was, yeah. Yes.
Commissioner Capillo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sharp?
Aye.
And Chair Wong?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, motion carries. All right, so let's go to oral communications. And at this point, this portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the commission on any matter within the jurisdiction of the commission and not on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, and in most cases, state law will prohibit the commission from making any decisions with respect to a matter not on the agenda. Reminder, this is something that's not on the agenda. If you're looking for an item that's on the agenda later, you'll have a time to speak then. So, okay. Do we have any residents with a hand, or anyone in the audience with a raised hand? I see Jennifer Griffin, I think. Okay, let's call on Jennifer Griffin.
Thank you, Chair Wong. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Hi, this is Jennifer, and I just wanted to talk for a minute about, evidently the attempts to recall the governor has actually gotten enough signatures, so it's probably going to go onto the ballot. And I think that we probably need to start thinking about, if the governor is recalled, I'm not a big fan of this, but who knows what's happening. We have to start thinking about what happens to the Scott Wiener, Tony Adkins big housing bill machinery if the governor is replaced. Does this machinery stay intact, or does it fall apart when the governor is replaced? I am of a mind that we are seeing that this is a standalone piece of machinery because the funding is stable. It is coming in from big money interests in the state and from outside of the state. And I predict that even if the governor is replaced, that these bills will still be pumped out by Tony Adkins, Scott Wiener. I don't want to pick on those two particularly, but there's a lot of other folks that are pumping the bills out. I believe that the money is not going to go away if Governor Newsom is recalled. And I am worried that the new governor will not be able to handle the threat to the California infrastructure that this big housing bill machinery is threatening to do. It appears that this standalone machinery seems to be attempting to take over our cities, our towns, Sacramento, etc. And it doesn't seem to be directed by politics, Republican or Democrat. It seems to be of a mind of its own and is completely engulfed with money. And this is a stable source of money. The supply chain for this money is intact and standalone. And this will continue after Governor Newsom is replaced, recalled, etc. I think that if this does happen, we need to start looking at what is funding this machinery and where it's going and what is it planning to do to our state. I'm very, very concerned about now of what it's doing. And as far as I'm concerned, we need to look at this potential threat to take over of our state. It's real, it's present, and it's a present danger. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. Do you have any other comments from the public? Any other emails? Other than the 3 that you mentioned earlier. Okay.
Yeah, I just checked and there's nothing there.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to our public hearings. Item number 4. Subject: Hillside Exception Application to consider allowing the construction of a 1,400 square foot deck at an existing single family residence on a prominent ridgeline. Application number EXC 2020-004. Applicants Glenn Katz, Capadia residence, location 22245 Canyon View Circle. So recommended action, that the Planning Commission adopt the proposed draft resolution to that the proposed project is exempt from CEQA, and 2, approve the hillside exception. Planning Commission decision final unless appealed. Let's go to the staff report.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Pugh Ghosh, Planning Manager. I wanted to introduce Jeff Zamora, our Associate Planner, who will be going over the staff report for this project tonight. Jeff?
Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Zamora, Project Planner for this project tonight. Let me share my screen. All right. Okay, so project tonight is a hillside exception, EXC-2020-004. project address is 22245 Canyon View Circle. The project proposal is for a hillside exception application to consider allowing the construction of a 1,400 square foot deck at an existing hillside residence on a prominent ridge line. A little background on the project. The zoning designation is residential hillside 170. The lot size is 181,170 square feet or 4.16 acres with an existing home on the site of 3,976 square feet. So again, the proposed project is for a new 1,400 square foot deck along the rear facade of the existing home. Materials consist of composite deck board and anodized aluminum railing at 3.5 feet high. It will be supported by structural columns. The project will require 8 cubic yards of grading for the deck columns to be relocated on site to an area along the southeast corner of the house, approximately 3.5 feet from the eastern property line. No tree removals are proposed as part of this project. Very briefly, I want to review 3 of the most common triggers of what would trigger a hillside exception. And the first situation is when a development over 500 square feet or more is being proposed on slopes of over 30%. The second situation is when a project requires grading of over 2,500 cubic yards. And another situation would be when a development disrupts a 15% sight line from a prominent ridge line, which is the subject of tonight's project. And the intent of the hillside exception is to analyze and minimize excessive grading and those visual impacts to the valley floor to the extent possible. So a topography slope analysis was provided by the applicant, and this shows the areas of development on slopes that are greater than 30%. So as you can see, there's a few areas for this new deck that are over those slopes of 30% or more, denoted in this dark cross hatching. However, the sum of these areas is 209 square feet, which is less than the 500 square foot threshold. So in this case, a hillside exception would not be triggered for that requirement.
You're talking that's area 1, 2, and 3 combined, just to make sure everyone's clear.
Correct. Yes, 1, 2, and 3. Area 1, 9 square feet, 135 square feet, and then area 3 has 65 square feet. And then I wanted to cover the prominent ridge line requirement and when a project would be subject to this. So hopefully this diagram helps to visualize that. So when there's a prominent ridge line near or on a subject property, a sight line is established from the ridge line with a 15-degree angle towards the valley floor. And if any portion of the development is proposed either in front of or within this sight line, that's when a hillside exception is required. If it's development that's proposed outside of that below, it would not be required. And then just applying that ridgeline diagram in the context of this project site, this is the home looking west with the proposed deck. And as you can see, the home is sited completely on the ridge line. This is the prominent ridge line here with the sight line. So any development attached to the home just wouldn't be feasible without that hillside exception request. Again, that intent of the hillside exception is to minimize visual disturbances of any development within that sight line, and ensure any adequate screening is provided if it's deemed necessary. So an intersection visibility study was provided by the applicant that examines views from prominent intersections on the valley floor within the city, and it was determined that the deck would not be visible from those locations, and therefore no additional landscape screening is required. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA per sections 15303 for new construction or conversion of small facilities or structures, including single-family residences, and none of the exceptions to categorical exemptions in CEQA guidelines section 15300.2 apply. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the proposed draft resolution to find that the proposed project is exempt from CEQA and approve the hillside exception. that concludes my presentation. We are joined by the homeowners, Yash and Trupti Kapadia, the applicants, and as well as their project designer, Glenn Katz.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for the staff report. And just making sure that we're following the proper custom and procedure here. Do we hear from the residents first, or do we debate? I believe we hear from the residents as well if there's something they want to say around the bill. So let's do that.
So this is Trupti Kapadia. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for your time. I know this is an evening hour. It's family time for everyone. I only want to mention here that we actually did have a deck of more or less the same size already here. Because it was kind of old and getting unsafe, we took it down, and we did get a permit before to replace that deck. So we took it down and got the permit, but unfortunately, I didn't know that the permit expires in 1 year. So that's what happened. So our permit expired, and also, even if I had known, I really got busy at the hospital with the COVID and stuff, so we didn't build it. So this is, I know, but technically it's a new construction, but this is just something which we already had here.
Okay. No, thank you for your statement there. Anything else you want to add? Anything else Glenn Katz wants to add as well?
I'll add just a little bit to that. So thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity. Actually, is my, okay, there we go. Looked like I was frozen for a moment there. Just want to say that Jeff's report, I think, very accurately described the project. So thank you, Jeff, for pulling that together. You know, as Yash and Trupti have stated, you know, they've lived in the home for many years. They want to just really continue enjoying that home. And really their intent was to replace this existing deck that was really badly in need of repairs. So, you know, they paused the project actually to kind of consider the size of the deck, and actually in the proposal decided to size down to actually reduce the size of the deck quite a bit from what had been approved back in the 2017 permit. And then as part of the new proposed deck, really made sure that the new proposed design wasn't going to be visible. It's going to be screened by the mature trees that are around the lot. And also that the whole deck falls within the sight lines of the house, so that although it's within the prominent ridge line, it really, you know, can't be seen by any of the neighbors, and also doesn't have any effect, you know, or impact on the views of the ridge line. So, you know, sort of everything falls in line with the intent of the hillside exception. So hopefully, you know, we'll see the value in kind of approving this and allowing them to go ahead and replace that deck so they continue to enjoy their home.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. All right, with that, I'm going to have the commissioners see if they have any questions for staff, and let's start there. Thank you, Yash and Trupti, and thank you, Glenn. Commissioner Madhupati? Sorry.
So I had a question. I think the applicant answered. So the previous deck was the same size as this one that's being constructed. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's awesome. And I also looked at the reports where it looks like, you know, it's not going to obstruct any ridgeline view. Looking at, you know, various spots, you know, I looked at the study report. So and also there was a notice given to all the neighbors and all that stuff. So at the time when the agenda was prepared, you know, there were no comments or no objection from any neighbors. Did anything come after that, or is that still clean? It's more of a
So staff didn't receive any calls or emails
okay.
for this project.
Yeah, so I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. Any other commissioners with any comments?
Yeah, I have a question. How was it approved for hillside exception at the time it was constructed? Like, what was the rationale given at that point? Because this is, I believe, is basically this deck already existed before, and you are kind of remodeling it or renovating it. So the first time around when you constructed it, at that point, what was the basis for approving this exception?
Actually, Jeff, can you answer that in terms of, you know, a little about the history, or I can address the 2017 permit. But
yeah, I can to the extent possible. So I think when the original deck was constructed, that was likely a part of the original home construction in the early 1980s. So that kind of predated any hillside exception requirement. I think when it came in for a replacement, we determined that it was exactly that, a replacement and of a non-conforming deck. However, that permit had since expired. It's been several years, I think, since that had expired. So at that point, we kind of look at that as a new deck construction, and that's why it was kind of presented as such.
Any questions?
Just to clarify, so you say that this exception was documented after the original construction of this particular deck. Is that right? That's what I heard you.
No. So when the original deck was constructed, that likely predated the hillside exception requirement. So the original deck was constructed without it because there wasn't a requirement for an exception at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Scharf, any questions, comments? Commissioner Saxena?
Yeah. So I heard two different stories. I heard one that the new deck is smaller than the old deck, and one that the new deck is the same size. Is it the same size as what was permitted in 2017, or the same size as the original deck? Which is smaller? And can you clarify that?
Yeah, so I can clarify that, Yashiro. It's like the deck that was approved in 2015 or ultimately approved in 2017 was much larger. It was 2,400 or 2,200 square feet. It was larger. So this new proposed deck has been downsized and then matches the size of the original deck.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Commissioner Saxena?
Just to confirm, the new proposal is smaller than the one approved a few years ago, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. My only question is really just a matter of process, and there's some wonderful grandfathered exceptions that occur throughout the city, whether it's fences or whether it's egresses and entryways. And when anyone starts something new at that point in time, like what's considered replacement, or what's considered something that requires a brand new permit. Like ideally, I would assume, and this is just me, and I could be totally wrong, so I'm just throwing it out there, that the original deck could just be replaced with something without a permit, given that it was already there and grandfathered. Why are we going through this process is the procedural question I'm asking.
I can help answer that, Chair Wong. So anything that you so if you're replacing something that is rotten or breaking down or that you need maintenance on, that is considered a replacement, even if it is, for example, we have annexed several properties from Santa Clara County, from San Jose. Sometimes the requirements might be different. And so if all you did, let's say you had a fence or whatever you had, and you were replacing a couple of fence posts because they were rotting out. Replacing those fence posts would be considered maintenance and not necessarily replacement of the fence. But if you were to voluntarily take the whole thing down and want to rebuild it, that is considered to be brand new. In this case, that deck that existed was significantly eroded, is my understanding. And as a result, Mr. and Mrs. Kapadia wanted to replace it. And at that time, it was just considered a replacement. And there was appropriate review done at that time with the building permit, et cetera. However, because that building permit expired, now but the deck had already been demolished. So because the deck had been demolished, it is now considered a brand new permit, a brand new deck. That's the distinction.
No, I wanted everyone to be able to understand that and where the exceptions are made when some people have seen neighbors do one thing versus another. So that's a very clear, concise answer. Thank you, Pew. Okay. I don't have any other further questions. I don't know if anybody else wants to make a motion or ask any other details. So one last time here for the team. Okay.
I make a motion to approve it.
Oh, was there public comment? I'm sorry if I missed it.
Oh, sorry. We need public comment. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, any public comment? If you do, please raise your hand. We will call on you and see if anyone has any comment about the hillside exception. Thanks to our city attorney for keeping us on track. Really appreciate that. And okay, I don't see any, so we're going to go straight into discussion. So, is there a motion first, and then go straight into discussion? Sorry about that. Okay, so I think Commissioner Madepatla, you were going to make a motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the hillside exception.
I'll
Is there a
second it.
second? All right. All right, cool. Any discussions, comments?
To me, this looks straightforward. So it's an exception for the sake of exception because there are rules. Otherwise, it's a no-brainer approval. I'm good with that.
Okay. Anyone else with a comment? Otherwise, I'll go into a vote. Okay. I just have a short comment. I think it's very good for people to understand what happens between replacement and repair. So keep in mind as you're doing renovations and thinking about how you do that, it may affect your grandfathered fences, it may grant for your egresses, and it may also impact your decks. So be careful in how you do that. So just something people should be watching for. Okay, with that, let's put it to a vote. Beth, please do the honors.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner Kapil,
Yeah, I approve.
Commissioner Saxena,
Yep.
Commissioner Madipatla,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sharp,
You're on mute, Vice Chair Chef. Sorry about that.
And just to be clear, we are also, declaring that this is exempt from CEQA.
And from CEQA as well, yes.
Yeah.
Item number 2. Is your vote?
Aye, yes.
Aye, okay.
and Chair Wong.
Aye, and also want to add the point that is exempt from CEQA, so we should declare that as well in the motion.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Well, good luck. Enjoy building your deck. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the next item on the agenda. And as I navigate some screens here, item number 5. Consider amendments to the Cupertino Municipal Code Sections 19.56.030A, Table 1956.030, and 1956.030F, Density Bonus Ordinance, to incentivize the development of affordable housing by allowing for density bonuses up to 40%. Application number MCA 2021-002. Applicant, the City of Cupertino. Location, citywide. Recommended action, the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution recommending that the City Council, 1, find that the action is exempt from CEQA, got a typo there, 2, adopt amendments to Cupertino Municipal Code Sections 19.56.030A, Table 1956.030 and 19.56.030F to incentivize the development of affordable housing by allowing for density bonuses up to 40%. Let's go to the staff report, please.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Pugh Ghosh, Planning Manager, once again, presenting the staff report. In December 2020, the City Council adopted a housing program to implement certain changes to the housing program that we have for affordable housing versus market rate housing. Essentially, how do we allow, what kind of a density bonus would we allow for affordable housing that is provided by a developer? Just as background, the city does have in its fiscal year 2019-2020 work program. Since then, there has been an item to incentivize affordable housing production, in part by updating the city's density bonus ordinance, which include adoption of this proposed housing program that the council adopted, and now those amendments are being made in the density bonus ordinance in the municipal code, and certain other amendments to ensure that affordable housing is incentivized. Again, a little more background about what happened at the state level. So when I say current, basically at that time, state law allowed a maximum of a 35% density bonus, meaning market rate units above the maximum amount of units that could be accommodated on a site if they provided a certain amount of very low or moderate income housing units in that development. However, 100% affordable projects do get additional bonuses. They can get up to 80% bonuses under state law. State law was amended with AB 2345 in 2020 to allow the maximum bonus to increase from 35% to 50% in exchange for 4 to 5% increase in affordability or affordable units. However, there was a provision in that state law that allowed the city to adopt its own housing program or ordinance amendment, which if it allowed bonuses that exceed 35% before January 2021, the city could enforce its own program and not be subject to certain changes in that state law. And subsequently, of course, the City Council on December 15th adopted the housing program shown in this table to allow density bonuses up to 40% and initiated a zoning code amendment. So staff is presenting the changes necessitated by adoption of that housing program with this municipal code amendment. So table 19.56.030 in chapter 19.56 is proposed to be replaced by the table shown on the slide. And additionally, a minor reference correction to show a maximum density bonus of 40% is proposed in section 19.56.030F. As you can tell, there are certain changes, whereas earlier, if one provided 11% or more very low income units in a development, they would be allowed a maximum of 35% density bonus. That is proposed to be amended to be 13% or more to have a maximum density bonus of 40%. And I do want to clarify that this very table is not in the ordinance. It's a version of this table which reflects these changes in essence. Similarly, for low-income units, if somebody provided 20% or more units in a development, they could get a maximum of a 35% density bonus, but that is proposed to be changed from 23% or more to get a 40% density bonus. And there are some similar changes that are proposed in a percentage leading up from 11% on. Lastly, for moderate income developments, there's a change between the 11% to 39%, where you would go from providing 6% density bonus to 34% density bonus. That's changing from up to 39%. So the top end is changing. So if somebody proposes 45% or more moderate income units in a development, they could get a maximum of 40% density bonus. So these are changes that the City Council adopted with the housing program in December 15, 2020. So this is just the municipal code amendment to reflect that adoption of the City Council's program. Just wanted to give a quick, description of how that would affect adopting these changes affect our local program. Under state law, as of 2020, the maximum density bonus was 35%. As of January 1st, the maximum is 50%. If these changes are adopted, our maximum can remain at 40%. Apologies for that. Similarly, there are certain incentives and concessions that were amended under state law. The threshold for what percentage of units you provide in order to get 2 or 3 incentives changed under state law, but with this amendment, this local program would not allow those changes to go into effect. There are some other changes to state law that will have to be applied to the city's program as well, and that relates to parking requirements, and there's a definition that was implemented with AB 2345 regarding how the distance to a major transit stop is measured. The city conducted a fiscal evaluation to determine whether the city's program would incentivize production of affordable housing in the city. And that report was included with the staff report. And the conclusions from that report, the economists concluded that the city's program that is proposed will incentivize rental housing production, that the 40% bonus will enable the production of enough additional market rate units to offset the cost of providing more low-income units. And would certainly improve the feasibility of rental development projects. It was observed through their modeling that the improvement in the rate of return is particularly notable for higher density rental apartment developments. For condominium developments, they basically said that neither the city's program nor the AB 2345 program improve the rate of return over what the city's current requirements are for condominium developments. The density bonuses are most successful in incentivizing really income housing at the very low income level in general. And as background, the city of San Diego had a program on density bonus, which inspired AB 2345. So there was it was a program that was implemented at only the city of San Diego, which, the state adopted as the state program. However, in general, the developers in San Diego used the low-income units to obtain the density bonus, and they did that regardless of whether the project was a rental or an ownership unit development. And the program will continue to incentivize very low-income rental housing, serving the households with the greatest need in terms of a housing need. The council also, accepted other reasons for why this program would be good, which included the fact that the Cupertino's existing ordinance provided adequate incentives to developers to include affordable housing in their projects. Prior to adoption of the San Diego program in San Diego, market rate developers there were not using the state density bonus to any significant extent. But in Cupertino, as you're all aware, all but one of the developers on the Cupertino housing element sites have applied for density bonuses using the incentives provided. That was even prior to the passage of AB 2345. And this include the developers at Valco, Marina, and Westport. Let's see. So the developers here in Cupertino are pretty familiar with the density bonus law, and they've used it regularly. When we looked at the legislative history for AB 1763, which was adopted in 2019 and used to authorize an 80% density bonus for 100% affordable projects, there was one purpose of the bill was to enable affordable housing developers to compete for a site against market rate developers. And groups like the California Rural Legal Assistance Foundation and the Western Center on Law and Poverty opposed the formula that was contained in AB 2345. Their concerns were that AB 2345 might disincentivize the production of low-income units because it would make it harder for affordable housing developers to compete. So they also recommended that the pattern of increases follow the same pattern that is incorporated into the housing program that that city council adopted. So that's what this is presented today. Those amendments are presented to the Planning Commission for its recommendation. With that, I just wanted to put the recommended action up to adopt the draft resolution recommending that the City Council find the action exempt from CEQA and to adopt the resolution that was presented to you and make the amendments to the ordinance.
Thank you, Pew. Thanks for the presentation and for the work from the staff. Question for you as well as we start the conversation, and then of course we'll open up to public comment, and then we'll take deliberations as we go through it. But the question to you, Pew, real quick, is to the staff, is do we have other options, or is this the only option that's being recommended at this moment? So the 40% maximum on the bonus. So.
This is the only option that is recommended at this time. This program was adopted by the City Council. And so this is staff's recommendation based on how the City Council acted upon that housing program.
Understood. And just from a process perspective, just for Seth and our city attorney, we can at any point make adjustments as we see fit or make changes. Is that correct as well?
So I did want to add one quick thing, Seth. We do have Barbara Kautz here, who is our outside consultant on matters related to housing. And so either Seth or Barbara.
Barbara. Hi, welcome, Barbara.
Barbara answer that. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, welcome, Barbara. Thank you.
Hi, Commissioners. Yes, you can make changes, but if you propose any change over 40%, the city would need to consider review under the California Environmental Quality Act. Because the council's already adopted a 40% program, adopting the recommended, the staff recommendation would not require any CEQA review because essentially the policy is already in place. But if you wish to go above it, we would need to consider what kind of environmental review might be needed.
Wonderful. And then a real quick question as well. I know other people can ask, but these projects only apply to those that are discretionary. Is that correct? Anything that's ministerial reviewed, they might not apply?
For ministerial review, there is SB 35. I think probably you're all aware of it, which permits
I've heard about it,
ministerial review of certain projects, and those projects can apply for density bonuses as well.
Okay, good. I think that clarification is useful. Anybody on the team would like to ask, on the commission, like to ask questions?
Yeah, I have a question on this one. What is the magic number 40% here means here? Basically, I see a very systematic 5% increase, irrespective of the number of units given for very low income or low income, like 20% or more for low income, 11% or more for very low income. The increase is very systematic, 40%. So I'm just trying to figure out that where is the consideration more or less for a very low versus low, or for that matter, moderate income. Because everywhere it's kind of a going up to 40%, 35% before, 40% later, irrespective of the fact that the difference in the total number of units constructed, 11%, 20%, or 40% or above. So I'm sure there is some logic behind it. I'm just trying to figure out what it is.
I mean, I think when the council adopted their program, they adopted a program to allow a 40% bonus rather than the 35% bonus. The difference is really that right now, the difference is in the percentage of additional affordable units that you need to get the additional 5% bonus. So with very low income units, you need another 2%. You need a 2% increase in the percentage of affordable units. You go from 11 to 13%, and you can get a 5% bonus. With the low income housing, you go. You have to have a 3% increase in the percentage of low income units to get the 5% bonus, and with moderate income units, you need a 5% increase in the number of moderate income units to get the additional 5% bonus. If this makes sense, so it really deeply incentivizes very low income housing, which is really what the city's economists found as well. And that was also true in the San Diego program. So the additional 5% bonus is really most likely to incentivize very low income units, because you only need to provide 2% more very low income units in order to get the 5% bonus. And it's the pattern that's followed right now in density bonus law, where you need the fewest number of affordable units of very low income units to get the greatest bonuses.
Yeah, but
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. The only thing I just struggling to understand is that why I understand very low income, you get 2% increase in the number of units and you get 5% extra bonus, basically.
Right.
Yeah, but the 40% remains constant. I mean, there is a logic behind that too.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Commissioner Capil. Anyone else? Vice Chair Scharf? I think you were around when that was passed.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Barb. So I have one question. So as we saw at Westport and also at Valco, can the property owners still get concessions and exceptions that allow them to violate the city's inclusionary housing requirements? Smaller units, lower quality units, and not making them part of the same building.
I mean, under state law, a developer can ask for almost any concession or incentive. That's a physical standard.
Okay, so this doesn't change anything. It's not like, okay, we'll let you have the extra density bonus, but you can't get all these exceptions and concessions. There's nothing like that in there.
No, the way the density bonus law is structured, getting the bonus itself is almost a gimme. Once you provide enough affordable units, you're entitled to the bonus.
Yeah, I mean, the concern I have, and nothing we can do about it, is once again, we will get no affordable units for families because they always have a way of taking the exceptions and concessions to make these as small as possible. So it's disappointing, but I mean, that's state law. So we have to go with it, I guess.
Well, actually, related to that,
thank you.
Vice Chair Scharf, what other types of gamed scenarios, if we try gameplay this out, right? War game it out, like what other kind of egregious things could happen, or what other benefits could we get? Let's ask in both ways, right? If you were to change the bonus amount from 40 to 30, or keep it at 35. So
no, I mean, we can't keep it at 35.
Yeah,
our choice is 40 or 50. So
yeah. So we don't have a choice. We're going for.
I'm just disappointed that once again there's a law that is not going to result in affordable units
housing
for families because the developers will find ways to get
shove
around
us.
it. So it's
they're going to shove like a single, like a studio in there and then count it as a unit.
We saw what happened with the SB 35, but nothing we can do about it. This is what the legislature has done, and we have to live with it.
Okay. All right. Good to hear. Commissioner Saxena.
Yeah, I'm curious. Have there been studies about the effectiveness of such laws in promoting affordable housing? You referred to some work done in San Diego in your talk. So this is for the housing consultant. Like, how are we measuring the impact of such things over the state over the past few decades?
Well, in San Diego, the program did incentivize much more use of the density bonus statute than they'd had in market rate projects. Many more developers were likely to request density bonuses and to provide affordable housing, to provide the affordable housing necessary to get the bonuses. I think the consultant's report said there was an average percent affordability of 14%, but one of the issues with density bonus law is that the percentages apply only to what we call the base density. So if someone is normally entitled to 100 units, and then they're entitled now to 140 units, let's say they choose to provide 13% affordable, they only need to provide 13
out of 100.
13 very low income units, up to 100. And when you look at it as a percentage of the 140 units, it's less than 10% of the units. So it provides some affordable housing, but I would generally say, there's kind of disappointingly small amounts.
And there is no percentage of square footage requirement. It's all percentage of units.
Well, the city has various standards, and some of our clients have standards about the density bonus. The affordable units need to match the bedroom count the average, they need to have the same average bedroom size as the market rate units, or that they need to be dispersed. But then, as Commissioner Scharf mentioned, developers can request a concession for that to reduce their costs. Mm-hmm. And unless the city has evidence that they don't really need that concession, which is evidence that's hard to obtain, then the city's stuck giving it to them. So it's very difficult, I think, actually, not only with the density bonus standards, but with any kind of zoning standards these days, recognizing that developers can request modifications of almost anything.
Thank you.
I have one comment and one question.
Okay, and we're going to go to Mooney. We're going to go to Mooney afterwards as well. He's had his hand raised. That's why. So go ahead, Commissioner Kapil.
Yeah, there is a story in the numbers here. So if you have 100 units, for instance, and you just provide 13 units for low income, you get 140 units.
Correct.
Right? Correct. Now, no builder will go for 123 units for low income, or 140 or 45 units for moderate income to get that same 40%. So they will provide you 2 extra units, and they'll get 140 units in there. So this is kind of a very disproportionate. It's very tilted towards the builder, basically, rather than to a low-income benefit. Because as you can see, 13% is just 2 units extra, and he is getting 40 units more. So basically, it's kind of 5 extra. Basically, 135. I mean, in the beginning itself, he gets 5. So my point is that the subsequent low income and moderate income basically. From an economics point of view, will not be chosen to get the same 5% benefit out there. So for every other thing is I wanted to ask you is that what happens if he gets a 40% bonus? What happens to the remaining for parking and for other facilities which are required? For those extra 40 units, that will be, he will provide that, or what happens to that? I believe this bonus is in terms of units. Is that right?
Right. The bonus is in terms of units. The developers are also entitled to parking reductions for all of the units in the project, whether or not they're affordable or not. So for studio and 1 bedrooms, it's 1 space per unit. And for, Pew, correct me if my numbers are wrong. And for 2 and 3 bedrooms, they only need to provide 1.5 spaces per unit. And for 4 bedrooms and above, 2. But so the developer can elect to utilize that for any, for the entire project if they want. Also, if they're within half a mile of a major transit stop, then they only need to provide half a space per unit. I mean, per bed. Sorry, half a space per bedroom.
Thank you, Barb. Commissioner Manipala, you've been waiting. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thanks. So can someone put up that table that said, the before and what the new table would look like?
Yeah, there's that nice graph that you had, Pew.
Can you share it?
Yeah, let's give her some time to put that up there, and she'll share that. And while we're waiting for that to be put up, let's see. Here we go. There we go.
So just for my benefit, Barbara, you used an example, right? So if I'm a developer, right, and
yes,
I use the existing laws, and if I don't use any of this density bonus law, I go and build 100 units, and whatever the percentages that are applicable in the municipal code is what I have to build for all these low income houses, right? So if it's 15% or whatever, I provide those numbers. 100. Oh, is this an example? Okay.
Yeah.
And
interrupt you, but I did have an example for.
Okay, that's good. So this is what I was looking for. So with the state law, the 35%, if I go for 35%, and I only have to increase, the number from whatever percentage and, to the state law mandates. Is that right?
So as of December 31st, a project would have to provide 11 VLI units,
yep,
and 6 low-income units to get a total density bonus or total project of 135.
35, yes.
Under state law, one would have to provide 21 total units under our program. And under our BMR program, they would have to provide 15 VLI units under state density bonus law and get a total of 150 unit project.
So the delta there goes from 17 to 21, right? So you get 4 extra units for the very low income, and the developer gets 15 units.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. They have to provide 4 extra VLI units to get that 15 unit density bonus.
Okay. And with the proposal that we are adopting, so what happens?
They would have to provide 2 additional VLI units, and they would get a total density bonus of 40 units, or a differential of 5 from what it was last year.
Okay.
And a reduction in parking spaces as well, I believe.
The reduction in parking spaces, yeah, that's mandated by state law.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, no, I was looking for an example like this. Yeah, thank you.
And ideally to build this, right, 100 apartments with an average square foot of 1,500, you probably have to sit about 2.5 to 3 acres of property, just to give you kind of an idea. So,
And
3-story.
Can the developers combine multiple state laws, or is it like either this or SB 35?
No, they can combine this with SB 35. In fact, that's what the Valco developers did. They had a SB 35 approval, and they also have a density bonus. In their case of 35% because the 40 and 50% bonuses weren't in effect then.
Oh, so they can combine any amount of state laws and and exemptions to get the project they need, basically.
Well, there are a few limits, but they can definitely combine SB 35 and density bonuses.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments for any other commissioners before we open up to public questions and comments? Okay, let's move on to question.
I had one question.
Vice Chair Sheriff, sorry about that. Go ahead, please.
Muted. All right, I'll lower my hand. So it sounds like if we just let the state law take effect, the developer, they would get 10 more units in that chart, but they would have to provide another 2 VLI units over what they would have to do with the proposed Cupertino law.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, to me, that's the question. Is it worth letting them have 10 more market rate units to get those 2 VLI units? Given the state of the market now and what we've seen, we've got 5 projects in our housing element and only 1 has ever been built or permitted. It seems like maybe maybe the state law will get us more VLI units. I'm not sure why the city council would have thought that. I understand. 40% is less than 50. That's better, but I'm just wondering if it really is, because our real shortage in our city is not market rate housing. We have plenty of market rate housing. The problem is in the very low income housing. So personally, I would do anything we can to get more of that VLI housing, even if we had to take more market rate. That's my comment.
It was interesting during the debate on the bill. The big concern. So if you really have a VLI project, for instance, if veranda had been built a few years later, it would have been entitled to an 80% bonus. It got the 35% bonus, but it would have been entitled to another? I don't know. I can't really do the math offhand, but it would have been entitled to an 80% bonus rather than the 35% bonus. So one of the concerns during the debate in the bill actually came from the affordable housing developers, who were concerned about a project being able to get a 50% bonus for only 15% VLI, whereas for 100% affordable project, it could only get an 80% bonus. In some cases, it can even get a larger bonus if it's close to transit. But that the concern was that then any ability that the affordable developers had to compete for the sites was going to be diminished because of the very high bonus.
So it's a fairness issue here they're talking about.
Yeah, it was fairness and economic as well. I think they had proposed, the bill allowing the 80% bonuses had been passed the year before, and really so that they could compete. I mean, obviously they need subsidies anyway, but by getting more units, they were able to reduce the cost per unit. And the concern was that once market rate developers could get a 50% bonus for a relatively small amount of affordable housing, probably less than 10% of the total units, is compared to the affordable developers getting an 80% bonus for all the units being affordable, that then, whatever advantage they thought they were going to obtain would have been lost. So that was one of the that was one of the concerns, and I agree. I mean, I think the biggest issue for Cupertino is finding a site for another affordable project.
Commissioner Capil, go ahead. You're saying something?
Yeah, I have a comment here. Instead of putting a percentages, if you had put in a dollar amount in terms of market rate housing and BMR, that would have actually justified even giving a 11% to 15% and keeping the top tier 40% intact as is, would still have benefited the builders quite a bit, because of the differential in dollar amount between the BMR versus renting a market rate housing is substantial. So just a comment, basically, because 13% and 40% doesn't really tell the real story, because it basically says that 30% of providing a BMR units, I'm going to get 40 extra units. Whereas the 40 extra units, which you are 5 extra units which you got, how much revenue you're going to derive from that extra 5 units, that is substantially higher than you will actually pay for extra 2% of the BMR units.
Commissioner Capil, are you asking for a revenue per square foot metric instead? That would be more accurate?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because if you give this number in revenues, the story will look very different.
Yeah, the economic report that is in your packet from Hausroth Associates, I don't think they use that metric. They use a slightly different, but basically it's sort of, perhaps it comes down to the same thing. I mean, she looked at the additional cost, if you like, of the very low income units versus the additional revenue, that's what it comes down to, the additional revenue to the developer, and concluded that the best improvement in rate of return was really for a high density project, a high density rental project.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone else?
Oh, so Barb, you mentioned that even with this density bonus, the property owner would still need subsidies in order to build this affordable housing. So,
well, for 100% affordable project.
Okay, but for 40%, the market rate is sufficient to subsidize the VLI.
Yeah, she concluded that for rental housing.
And they did that pre-pandemic or post-pandemic?
Well, she used, her report talks about it. I mean, she basically used the pre-pandemic numbers to kind of look at how, she basically looked at whether the city's program would improve the rate of return given the pre-pandemic numbers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just concerned
because... Is it making things better?
Because rents have come down,
right,
dramatically in San Francisco, but also in the whole Bay Area. They've come down considerably, and that's what I hear when I was in city council I would talk to a developer and they go, well, we're not building because the market sucks. I mean, basically that was that was their justification for not pulling permits, even though the projects were all approved.
Yeah, she basically looked at whether the city's program would improve the rate of return, but I think none of us are quite sure how it's all going to settle out. But she did not look at, do a completely new market analysis.
Okay.
Yeah, but just take some benchmarks there. I mean, look, the veranda, the average unit is 350 square feet. Cost per unit is 800,000. You're talking about $2,285. Dollars per square feet. That's ridiculous. We're at super high end. So I can't figure out how. That's more expensive than living in Palo Alto. I don't know how we got to those numbers.
The land alone was $3.7 million.
Yeah, including the land costs. You have to, including land costs, right? So
the land costs were, that's a project actually where the new 80% bonus would have been a huge because the land costs were so high. I mean,
You need more density there to make it worthwhile.
200,000, yeah. If you had more density there, it would have.
And we did suggest that to them, and it was like, well, that will take a general plan amendment and all. We just want to get this built.
Right.
But it would have been an ideal place to go higher and have more units. But the nonprofit that built it just didn't want to go down that road. I
understand but now they could go down the road without doing the general plan amendment.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, for those developers out there that are looking to build affordable housing, please take notes. Okay, with that, I'm going to go to comments from the public, if that's okay, unless commissioners have more questions. Okay, well, with that, let's go to our first comment. Tessa Parrish, let's unmute her and get her on.
I'm sorry, I didn't request to speak.
Oh, no problem. I had a hand up. No problem. We'll take you off and we'll move it to Jennifer Griffin and then Lisa Warren.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, this is Jennifer Griffin, and very, very interesting discussion. Staff, thank you so much for trudging through this as usual. Frankly, maybe we should recall the governor. He keeps signing stuff like this, the AB 2345. This was on Livable California's target last year as one of the bad bills. And, okay, David Chu, Assemblyman Chu from San Francisco, is a co-author. Lorena Gonzalez, Assembly Lady from San Diego, is a co-author. What was Assemblyman Chu doing down in San Diego talking about affordable housing that was based on a San Diego project? What business did he have down there doing that? And why are they foisting this on California? The money for this bill came out of big money from San Diego, and I will say personally out of the state. So this is one of the situations where this bill is poorly written, poorly understood. It is just out there to cause trouble. And I think that this is part of the Scott Wiener, Tony Atkins, a big housing bill machinery that is just being thrown out there. I predict that if the governor got recalled, this type of big bill machinery coming out of San Diego, San Francisco, if David Chu wrote bills in his own city, would still stay intact. Yes, I think that we need to start looking at why these bills are being presented. I think a builder wanted this. He wanted 100% density. And and no parking. Okay, so every city in the state has to comply with that. Where do these people get off? I'm sorry. I'm a resident of this city, and nobody is asking the residents of California. These lawmakers are really, really getting irresponsible. Put it on your own city, Mr. Chu and Miss Lorena. Have it go down in San Francisco or San Diego, but don't have it be for the rest of the state unless we get to vote on it. Look at all the time and money the city councils have to go through to crawl through all this stuff just because big money from San Diego wants to be able to build housing of like 2 square feet all over the state. This is where we're going with this. The jig is up. Start following. Look at the text of these bills and who is supporting them. That is where the money is coming from. And believe me, it is no one interested in homelessness or low or affordable housing. It is pure, straight money profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, let's move to our next speaker, Lisa Warren.
Hello. So,
hey, we can hear you. Go ahead.
A little bit blunt, and I'm not picking on you, Stephen, but it's clear that this whole thing is uncomfortable. To me, it's clear that it's uncomfortable to most of you, if not all of you, that what's being done and what people are getting away with. And Stephen, I'm sorry, Stephen, you made the comment that this is what the legislature has done and we just have to live with it. But that's the kind of stuff we can't keep saying out loud. We don't have to live with it. It's not livable to live with it. But so let's not forget that there's an effort for a constitutional amendment to try to fix this stuff. And please don't in public ever repeat that again. Because we may all be thinking it and we may say it, but we need a different mindset to get the momentum to get something done that people are trying to do. And for very good reasons. So I don't know. There's so much ins and outs and sideways about this whole thing, and you're all asking great questions, and it's still clear as mud. But so thank you for that. And I think what worries me, if you go with allowing the 50, just to get that 2 extra for 10, 2 for 10, that creates a need for them to go higher. And then they get some concession or whatever they're allowed to do to go higher or closer to the street or less parking or whatever they can wiggle around with all this wheeling and dealing. I mean, it's like a Monopoly game. It's ridiculous. And so that being said, I believe the 40% would be better than 50%. Based on what my little brain can hold in it about all of this, and not knowing what's coming next, which there's going to be more. Anyway, thank you. That's all. That's all my babbling for this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate your comments and thanks for attending. Okay, we don't see any more questions from the general public or comments. Do we have any written ones, Beth?
No, I just checked and there's nothing in the, oh, wait, mailbox just opened. Hold on. Nope, nothing for us.
Okay. All right, let's go back to deliberations and if anybody wants to raise a motion.
Right, so I believe the proper Rosenberg procedure is first we get a motion and then we do discussion.
Correct. That is correct. Someone has to make a motion before we can actually debate on that motion, and in play, and that motion needs to include the 3 parts. Or you can separate the 3 parts if you choose to vote them separately. So just for everybody's knowledge.
I propose that we support all the 3 motions.
Right. Well, so yeah, so just make the whole motion then.
Make the whole motion to find that action is exempt from CEQA and adopt the amendments to the Cupertino Municipal Code. So make that motion that way. Go ahead, Commissioner Saxena.
Okay. I make the motion to, do you have the, okay. I made the motion to adopt all the 3 resolutions, find action exempt from CEQA, adopt amendment to Cupertino Municipal Code Section 19.56.030A, Table 19.56.030, and 19.56.030F.
I second it.
Any discussion or debate?
Okay. So I will go first if that's okay.
Please go ahead.
No, I appreciate what one of the residents said, Miss Warren, and yeah, perhaps I should have phrased my statement a little better. It's not that I like this; it's that for now, and the Planning Commission, we are in a spot of making this decision. It's true that there's a constitutional amendment being proposed that would fix all of these things, but that is not here yet. It would not go on the ballot for another 2 years till 2022 at the earliest. So, right, I'm at a loss. I think the 40% that the council proposed as an alternative to the state law is something that we should just approve. So I will be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Scharf. I have a question for our city attorney. Can we make a suggestion for a resolution that could then be rescinded if a certain law would pass in the future? Is there any way to do something like that legally? So let's say the amendment that gives us more local control comes into place. This would have an expiration date and we'd have to revisit this. Is there a way to do that? Put a timestamp on this, Bob?
I'm going to kick this over to Barb since you're covering this item, unless you want to.
Oh, sorry about that. Barb, yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Actually, there's a there's a case that says you can't automatically change zoning. You have to go, if you're going to change the zoning, you have to go through a process. Does that make sense?
We put an expiration date to this so that we have to visit it again. And so at that point, if a resolution is passed.
Oh, what you're suggesting is to make it a
time limit.
Just have it sunset?
Yes, please.
You could add that to your, I'm not aware of any reason why you could not. Except for you,
No.
It seems to me you could propose a sunset in a local ordinance, just like the state has sunsets in their state laws.
I'm just asking that question procedurally, not just for this one, but for other ones, so we can get smarter about certain laws, certain ordinances. If we want to revisit them in the future, at least have an opportunity to do so. So that's all.
I think what you would need to do, though, is have a specific date. And the problem with that then if the council wants to keep it going, then they would have to readopt. So you're kind of setting up a more elaborate procedure. And it's the kind of thing somebody can forget.
Very true.
Just because people are human and, after a while people get used to it. What you can't do is say that, the maintenance is conditional upon, upon some future action. You can't do that kind of conditional zoning, but you could set a specific date for it to expire. But again, I think the difficulty would be that then the council is set up to have to take another action, and the planning commission.
If it's a way to actually improve higher ratios of very low income housing in order to, retain more local control in the future, that's kind of an interesting approach. Go ahead, Pew. Sorry about that.
Apologies. That was unintentional.
Oh, okay, no problem. So, okay. Anybody else? Any other comments and debate from the commissioners?
To me, it looks like the incentivize the development of affordable housing is skewed. Basically, I can't understand the incentive here in terms of so from that perspective, I'm going to vote no on this.
Okay, that's good to know.
The biggest flaw that I see in all of this is the state laws that keep passing where the percentages only apply for the base units, not for the whole thing, right? It would be nice, to say, you're entitled for, whatever percentage, building certain percentage at 100 units. When you go to, 140, you increase by 40%. So you are expected to build, 15% instead of 10%, of the entire 140, not just, the base units, right? To me, the state law itself is very flawed, but we know that, from SB 35 and, various other laws, that's the way they are written. It is what it is. And I'm glad, the city is adopting something, so that we have a notion of, local control.
Barb, may I ask a question that's similarly related to that? Can we put restrictions that it should be the affordable units should be the size of the median size unit in that property? I think that's what Commissioner Mahdipatla is asking, because otherwise we're just going to sack super small units as the VLIs in there, right? Or at least, some kind of standard for that.
Yeah, you can, and in a number of the density bonus ordinances I've seen have provisions such as the affordable units need to be dispersed and they need to be the same average size or have the same average bedroom count. That's typically what you see. And as the market rate units. The difficulty, as you experienced with Valco, was that the Valco developer asked to have the units, said that made them not made the project not financially feasible, and therefore asked for a concession. So that's the difficulty. But I don't think it hurts to have those kind of provisions in, because the number of concessions a developer is entitled to are limited. And so, anyway, and a number of developers may find that that's not a concession worth asking for. So there can be value in putting that kind of a provision in.
We're in a funny cat and mouse chase between adding more restrictions and getting more concessions. So if we don't put more restrictions, we get more concessions asked of us, is what you're saying.
Also cannot do something that reduces the density of housing, under SB 330, the Housing Crisis Act. You can't take any actions that would reduce the density of housing, but merely requiring that the units be the same average bedroom size as the, or have the same average bedroom count as the market rate units does not restrict the number of units, doesn't restrict density, so I believe that would be
But it opens up the ability for families to be in those units as opposed to.
Many developers would prefer to have a project that the city is happy with.
Actually, if you had, I think somebody mentioned before, how much revenue gained and how much revenue lost because of those per square feet. That will capture everything, because in that case, if your BMR house square footage is very small and the extra 5 units, whatever you're going to get, they have a square footage is comparatively very large, you will see in those numbers that what happened here, that although we compromised, a builder compromised 3% or 2% of the units, but those 2% only, contributed to some very small square footage. And so effectively, they basically sacrificed very small revenue, and they gained a substantially large revenue by those extra 4 or 5% units which they got. So having the matrix changed will give a much better picture of, and you can make a much logical decision on that. That's all.
You're talking, Commissioner Cupertino, talking profit per square feet will be higher by.
I understand that. Usually it's a comparable bedroom size, so the units tend to be smaller anyway. I grew up in there were 6 of us, and I grew up in a 1,200 square foot home. So, with 3 bedrooms. So, anyway, all I'm saying is that units can be, the comparable bedroom size allows for families, but does allow the developer to make the units smaller.
Right.
Can you use a medium square footage? Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner, Vice Chair.
We don't have that current. I mean, our current thing in the city is that the BMR units have to be equivalent to the market rate units, but I don't believe we have anything that goes into the detail of bedroom size.
Pew, do you have the ordinance? Because I don't have the.
The screen that I'm sharing.
Yeah, go have that now.
Yeah. But this doesn't apply.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily apply to the density bonus units.
Right, exactly.
Oh, these are BMR.
We have to tie the two. We have to tie the two together in this
exactly.
ordinance if you want that to happen.
So,
and the ordinance needs to comply to our BRM unit design requirements would be the phrase I think we have to add.
Yeah, did the city council add that? I mean, that's.
You can propose, right?
I mean, that's a good point, right? The density bonus units are not necessarily the same as BMR units.
Well, only when you have a project like Valco, where half the units are, so it greatly exceeds the city's BMR requirements. Pew, correct me if I'm wrong, but usually the number of units you need for a density bonus is
lower.
So developers try to double count. They try to meet both the city's BMR requirements and the and the density bonus requirements. And the reason they asked, for instance, the Westport project asked for a concession was that these were BMR units. In addition to density bonus units, and as BMR units, they needed to be dispersed.
Right. Okay.
I was just trying to lump them all in.
Yeah.
Get them
Yeah.
all
I mean,
once.
it's a distinction that we need to be careful with, you know, because I keep thinking density bonus units, you know, and obviously they're not the same because the density bonus units are the market rate units.
Yes, they get the
Yeah.
benefit, and
Yeah.
then the other pieces get stuck with the VLI, BMR. Yeah, so yeah.
You have 4 units that make you eligible for a density
Right.
bonus.
And the problem is it could be seen that we're trying to restrict building because we're making it too restrictive. That's the other way people could look at that and argue. That's the other challenge. Even though what we're really trying to do is make sure people get bigger units when they do build those projects. So I can see both sides of the argument here.
So Ray, make it clear here that when we vote on this, we're essentially voting for 40% versus 50%. Because if this went down, we would be subject to AB 2345 instead of our own. Okay.
Well, the city council already adopted a housing program.
Yeah.
But they wanted to get it codified in the density bonus ordinance. So the statute's kind of odd because it says if the city has adopted a housing program or an ordinance or both, then it qualifies, you know, I guess you could call it an exemption from the specific provisions of AB 2345. So the council's already adopted a housing program, but they did want to make the density bonus ordinance consistent, if possible.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other comments, questions for our staff, as well as Barbara and Seth? So. Okay. Not hearing one. I guess we should call a vote. So, Beth, do the honors.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
You're on mute, Beth. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. I have a new mouse and it's really doing weird things over here. Sorry. Commissioner Saxena?
Yes.
Commissioner Capil?
No.
Commissioner Maripatna?
Yes.
Vice Chair Shar?
Yes.
And Chair Wong?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-0-1 with Commissioner Capil voting no.
No, it
Four.
passes 4-1-0.
4-1-0, yes.
4-1-0. 4-1-0. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone, for your help and assistance. We're going to move on to item number 6, which is the discussion about the aesthetics of small cell facilities. And that discussion is going on. It's related to small cell areas. There's no staff report to this, correct? I just want to make sure.
There is no staff report.
Okay, cool. So we're having an open discussion about small cell facilities. This is an issue that has been raised by numerous members of the community, and we wanted to take a look at that. As the Planning Commission, there's various areas where, under the general plan, infrastructure 6.1, the telecommunications master plan, and 6.2, policy IN infrastructure, 6.2, it's coordination, and then other areas within the municipal code that this is part of a jurisdiction in terms of being able to talk about these issues. With that, I guess we're just going to open up for a community discussion and see who's out there. And if you've got a comment or anything, and if we've also got email comments as well, we'll put them to public comment. You're limited to 3 minutes. We will call you. Please raise your hand on Zoom and announce yourself and share us with your comments for discussion.
Oh, Ray, before we go to public comment, I just wanted to make sure everyone realizes what the federal law is, that cities cannot consider health concerns when deciding whether or not to approve the location of a cell tower or small cell. And, ran into this often. And it almost you have to be very careful because a carrier could watch the meeting and someone could, raise the health issue, and then the council of the planning commission could take action, and the carrier could say, hey, you're considering health issues. So just be careful. Everyone be careful when you discuss this, and try to avoid any discussion of health concerns.
Yeah, let me read that. Under federal law, cities have the authority to regulate the placement, construction, and modification of wireless services, facilities subject to certain limitations. Under U.S. Code 47, 332C7A, among those limitations, the city's regulations may not unreasonably discriminate among providers of functionally equivalent services, and may not prohibit or have the effect of prohibiting the provisions of personal wireless services. That's part of those codes. There's a whole bunch of those, and we also can't deny anything based on environmental or health impacts of the facility as well. So there's just kind of a quick summary of that. So,
And
yeah.
Just a
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up.
item from me. Am I okay? Breaking up?
You're still breaking up, but please repeat
Okay.
what you were going to say. Sorry about that. So.
Oh, yes, this is consistent with the language of the agenda item, which is limited to aesthetics. So I think that's.
I believe you're
yes,
saying this is consistent with the language in the agenda item that's limited to aesthetics. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. I just make sure we're all saying the same thing. So, okay. So with that in mind, let's go to our first speaker. I see a Rajul Pundit, so please go ahead.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I am Rajul Pandit. I'm a proud citizen of Cupertino for more than 20 years. Thank you for taking my call. My request to the Planning Commission is to take a more active role in better managing our 5G small cell tower implementation. I feel that we are a city with a very educated electorate, and I really feel that our city should have been the leader in this issue. But not only are we not the leader, but I think that we are falling behind many other cities that have been more progressive and followed best care practices. And some of those cities that I have learned about are, Encinadas, Sonoma, Calabasas, Fairfax, Mill Valley, even Los Altos. Hillsborough, Monterey. If we are failing to be the leader, we should at least follow their example and do the best care practices for the 5G small cell tower issue. That's my first point. And my second point, I know we have to talk about the aesthetics and the impact of that, but I really want to emphasize my profession is as a radiologist. And I know that in working in a radiology department, we have a lot of standards that we have to maintain. So my question to the Planning Commission is, how are we going to ensure once these are rolled out that there is going to be compliance with all the existing standards? If there's going to be annual inspection of these towers, who is going to perform that oversight? Who is going to make sure that there is conformance to all the radiation standards? And is there going to be regular reviews of these cell towers? And if possible, is there a role for provisional permits so that permanent permits are not given right away? And provisionally only maybe 3 years or 4 years until we inspect that they are going to be functioning as they should be. And once again, I want to just emphasize that other cities have already led the example, and all we need to do is follow them. So many of them have done that, including neighboring cities. So why can't Cupertino do the same? Thank you.
Thank you, Rajul. I'm going to go to Tessa Parrish, then we're going to go to Peter Chu, and then Jing Liu, so that you guys have the order. So go ahead, Tessa.
I am muting myself. Thank you. Hi there, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I received two of the Verizon notifications because I'm within, I guess, two of the ones that are being installed. The first one was on Virginia Swan Place in Lasaneo, and they are so unsightly. They're they really don't belong in a residential area. I posted the notification on the post so that people could see it. And I was sure that people were going to complain, mostly the community that resides on Parish Place and Virginia Swan Place. I was sure they weren't going to complain because there's a big, bulky, and I'll email you the picture that I have of what it looks like. One is right in front of their balcony or their window, but still, some people don't ever like to speak up, or they don't really care, or they think that this is necessary. So we all have high Wi-Fi through our homes, and they're really not necessary that we have these in residential areas, in my humble opinion, other than we're giving the opportunity for Verizon to compete. But I'm also by trade, and then now the second notification, let me going back, is on Will Court and Lazanelle, right across from Lawson Middle, and right in front of a court, which happens to be my court where I live. And it is very, like I said, very ugly, very unsightly. I do not want it there, but I'm also a realtor. And when I meet with clients, and they inevitably, whether or not it's safe, is almost irrelevant. They always we don't want that right in front of our window. They say some people that do think is an issue are concerned, and it devalues the property, whether it's a real or fancied concern, it devalues the property. So my communication, or my request to the Planning Commission, is please consider the residents that may or may not know of what's to come. My other concern was that we didn't all know about this. It's been rolled out in small phases, so the community, the city as a whole, is not really discussing it. It's whoever gets notified. So it may appear that it's only a handful of concerned residents. But again, my concern is it's ugly, doesn't belong in residential. It really is unsightly. But it's also devaluing properties because it's unsightly. And for some people that consider it's unhealthy, it devalues them. I know you're not willing to look at that, and we shouldn't care for that, other than I think as a community, it will devalue that area that you put it in. At one point, I thought, my 3 minutes are up. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, you're
That's
up.
all. Thank you very much. Please consider not getting it out of residential areas. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tessa. We're going to go to Peter Chu, and then we're going to go to Jing Liu, and then Venkat Ranganathan.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Wong, and also Vice Chair Scharf, and fellow commissioners. My name is Peter Chu, and I'm a 20-year resident next to Creekside Park in Cupertino. Starting in October 2020, Cupertino residents started receiving permit notifications from Verizon for 5G cell sites. And as Tessa said, I think that it's done in very small pockets, so it's not widely distributed in many ways. That's one issue. By the way, I'm a technologist who actually worked on 4G and also the predecessors to 5G. So I'm a fan of the network economy. 5G has the potential to upgrade our infrastructure, but like many powerful technologies, deployment with proper planning and safeguards will ensure that we all benefit without much downside. And, it's just as Raju, I have to second that, is that as a technologist, standards are evolving and a lot of data is still coming in. So I'm very much in favor of suggesting we look at provisional permits that, as you said in the previous session, when things change, we have to have the option as a city to be able to manage these things better. There are many cities, which I think Raju mentioned, that are in the forefront of 5G, and we are very far behind, right? I welcome our Planning Commission to address this matter, finally. For starters, let's look at, for example, Los Altos, Calabasas, Petaluma, where they have setbacks away from residences at least 500 to 1,500 feet. They have ordinances, and we merely have guidelines that says 20 feet away from residences. That's pretty far behind. Mill Valley forbids residential zones, period, right? And the other area that's hot with all the cities are Fairfax, Mill Valley, San Ramon, and Calabasas, Petaluma, Los Altos, is that they have ordinances that says that 1,500 feet distance between any of these cell sites. Cupertino says in our guidelines, by the way, 500 feet if it belongs to the same carrier. So if 5 carriers want to put it 100 feet away from each other, around as in Tessa's house, our guidance says that's fine. We need to act and follow the best examples to bring out 5G. And maybe because it's eroding property value, right? And that's critical to all of us as residents, as well as the revenue of the city. And I think that, for example, Tessa's already talked about the sort of negative impact on property value. I think that's something we really have to pay attention to. But not to mention, I look out of my window, there's a street light, which doesn't quite fit the character of the neighborhood as is. But now imagine a 3-foot tall metal structure protruding on top of that. That's unsightly, whether you're looking at from your living room, dining room, family room, or bedroom. And I would say it's it's an abomination, right? I urge the Planning Commission to quickly come up with stronger ordinances, starting with zoning. Preferences of truly non-residential zones over residential zones. Today, Verizon is already pushing the limit. You look at the permitted cell sites, they're 20 feet away from residences. And the residential zones are the least preferred categories, like 5 levels down from the top level, right? So they're abusing both the zoning as well as the sort of the distance guidelines that we're providing. And I urge the city council to, the Planning Commission works city council to act on this quickly, as it's important to all of us. Thank you.
Hey, Peter, thank you. We're at 3 minutes. Okay, Jing Lu, and then Venkat, and then James Lin.
Hi, this is Jean. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Actually, thank you for letting me talk on this meeting. And I'm a resident near Three Oaks Park on Rupert Place. I'm also talking about this, 5G cell in the park. This park is a community park where we actually go there for ourselves to really enjoy the nature. And this proposal of having a light pole and a cell tower in that open area really will disrupt the harmony of this whole park, because for me, that open area really is a treasure, because that's where we can have only place that in this neighborhood to have a very clear view of the north sky. We, some kids here at nighttime we can actually do stargazing, and a light pole in that area really will pollute the sky. Pollute the will cause the light, adding more light pollution, and very cause a problem for stargazing. And so really please consider this really as this human construction. This light pole here really doesn't fit the whole environment. We have a lot of ash trees in that cluster. Just suddenly there's one light pole in that open area, just doesn't fit the whole environment. That's my opinion. Other than I kind of agree previous to several citizens about the problems. I totally agree with them. So we don't really need 5G for the residential area. We have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, people can choose to use Wi-Fi to do whatever internet things. Here in the park is not a place for those things.
Okay. Thank you, Jing, for your comments. I think you talked about accessibility. If it's not a 5G accessibility and light pollution as well. So thank you. Let's go to Venkat, James Lin, and then Karis Lee. I think that's your name. So go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Venkat, we hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Venkatesan Ranganathan, a resident of Cupertino for more than 10 years and lived in the Bay Area, particularly San Jose and Sunnyvale, for another 20 years. So, and thanks for the opportunity to bring this 5G tower issue before the Planning Commission. I want to bring to attention some important aspects, a few important aspects of the 5G small planning and application in our city. The first is regarding the notification of permits and how the citizens are kept informed. There is a map that the city provides where the permits have been granted and what's the state, etc. But at any point, a resident is not sure whether there is a new permit is going to come up, what are all the locations that are near the ambit of these small cell towers coming up. So that's why, and then this basically means that not all residents are fully aware of the small cell tower coming up in the city, and we need to make sure that as a city we have a full overview of these cell towers coming up, not just immediately, but in the medium to long term to better plan for it. And as others pointed out, we are behind in some of the requirements in the small cell tower provisioning, and even these lax notification requirements are not fully followed. In fact, I had the experience where the contact phone and email was not even set up by the vendor when I got the notification. So, and following up, there are people who got the notification after they were set up, but no response. So I think there should be a better handling of the notification of this, and it will do better if we get that properly streamlined. And then the other thing is these are all prioritization of the resident, commercial sector should be above the residential area. The 5G provides lots of bandwidth, and we all, being a technologically advanced, being in the heart of Silicon Valley, we know the value of that. But it's the commercial sector that is in real need of this, and the prioritization should be to the commercial sector, not the residential one. And and then this Fritz-size antenna with their fans and loud noises will be proliferating throughout the city, will be an issue, and we need to be aware of that and take plans to make sure that this is properly regulated and planned for monitoring and management also. Thanks.
Venkat, thank you. Thank you for your comments. We're going to go to James Lin, Karis Lee, William W., and then Lee Min.
So can you hear me now?
James, you sound great. Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Yeah. Good night, Chair and Vice Chair and Commissioners. I would like to talk about make some comment on the aesthetic issues pertaining to the Verizon proposal to build the 5G tower right across the street from my house. I'm a 37 years resident of living on Mosen Drive, just right across the street from Three Oaks Park. And the problem is that the proposal caused so many issues on the aesthetic issues, especially, first of all, the beautiful park landscape will be ruined by this ugly, huge pole. And secondly, they're going to cause an obstructed park and mountain view for the people who have been enjoying watching for many years since they moved in. And also, this is going to cause mental distress among all those residents who no longer able to enjoy the beautiful park views they paid for. For example, I moved in this house 30 years ago because I enjoy the beautiful view of the park. And with the new installation of this ugly tower, cause the obstructive view of the park and the mountain that I have been enjoying for 37 years. I cannot imagine someday when I wake up in the morning, look out the window, look at my house, all I see is just an ugly tower. And this is the obstructive view means it's reduce the property value. You'll know when you book a room on a cruise ship or in a hotel, the obstructive view, ocean view is much cheaper than a room without the obstruction view. So, and also, if we approve this proposal, this means that more carriers like AT&T and T-Mobile, those companies are going to follow suit because we set example, allow them to build the tower in. So my proposal is to reject the Verizon's permit request to build a tower in Three Oaks Park. and also propose them to look other site that's more far away from the park and the residential area. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, James. I appreciate your comments. Karis, William, Lehman, and Satish.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, Karis. Welcome. Welcome to the Planning Commission.
Hi, this is Karis. Thank you. I think the points were well addressed by other speakers already, but I do want to add on one more very important point. I think currently the city already provided a map showing sites under permit approval. Most of them are from Verizon. But I do understand that during one meeting, we also had some comments saying eventually there will be hundreds of 5G cell sites on most of light posts around the city. That's really horrifying. If we already have that visibility within the city council, this should also be transparent to all the citizens, right? So how can we also get the same visibility? What's the planning? How would these hundreds of 5G cell sites be planned? And how about other carriers besides Verizon? I believe there should be more proactive and transparent communication through the citizens so we can openly discuss what to do with them instead of just very late notice and only notifying the immediate residents around that area. So I think this is something immediately we need to address a clear and transparent plan on the future posts. If we are going to have any. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Karis, for your comments. Let's go to William W., Lehman, Satish, and Lisa Warren.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and all the commissioners. My name is William, and I also live across from the Three Oaks Park. And I think Mr. Lin kind of started the conversation in terms of, the Verizon permit to apply a street light pole in the north end of the park. So, I look out my windows every day. It's tree lined and open park landscape. And with the new proposal or the new permit being applied, it's going to be a light pole in the middle of this open field, right? So, and in the backdrop is all the mountains that we look at in the Saratoga view. So, like you say, now it's going to be, you're looking at a park with something sticking in the middle in the open area. It really creates a negative, visions. And upon, aesthetic issue that the north end of the park actually slopes down into the Molden Drive. So, whether it's a suitable locations to put such a heavy equipment, and there are, there's going to be obstructions literally against the open area. And I think the light pole, it's 35 or 30 feet tall, and it's, I think it's higher than the tree lines as well. So again, all these negative impact on the open park view and our park and, Cupertino's Park and Recreation Department has done a wonderful job of, building these environments for the citizens. And, it just, it's going to be a disappointment to kind of see, how this light pole is going to kind of damage the overall view. And, and the open park landscape with the tree line, it's going to be significantly impacted. So, I think most of the other speakers have already, voiced out, having these in the park could somewhat, bring in negative views. And, I strongly, ask the commissions here to consider. And the other thing is, I'm not a lawyer, but I can't really distinguish between, what is the jurisdiction of the park and recreation versus what's a public right of use, and do we need park and recreation to look into this, because it's being built on the grassland of the park, and it also has all the sprinkler system underneath. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, William W. We'll go to Lehman, Satish, Lisa, and then Vishal. Hello, Lehman. The mic is yours.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity for me to speak. I am a resident in Cupertino, and I am extremely concerned on 5G cell site rollout. Currently, there is a proposed Verizon cell site right next to my home. Probably less than 10 feet distance. And I'm wondering what other cities have done to protect their residents' safety. And I searched on the internet, and I found many cities have already taken actions. Los Altos is one of the cities that have placed rules to regulate this cell site rollout. Let me quote some of the rules Los Altos has. Los Altos has clearly specified the preferred locations for cell site deployment. From the most preferred to least preferred are the commercial districts, public districts, followed by mixed-use districts, and the residential district is the least preferred location. Second, there is a minimum separation of 1,500 feet between each small cell facilities. And there's regulation so that they cannot be placed on the street corners because it's too obvious. And with other requirements on installation height and landscape screening requirements. And there's also requirements that the nodes cannot be placed within 500 feet of a school. And there's a requirement for a minimum of 150 feet away from any residentially zoned property line or any school property line. They also require written notice to all the property owners and residents within 1,000 feet in any direction of a proposed facility. And the applicant has to identify at least 5 other feasible locations which could achieve the applicant's intended service goal. There are also noise regulation, because the 5G cell towers can create excessive noise 24/7 due to the cooling fans to cool down the batteries located on the utility pole. And they also require posting the application to the city website within 3 days of receipt or as soon as it's reasonably practical. So I have already sent an email comment before the meeting, which includes the link to the detailed regulation Los Altos has. And I have seen many other cities have taken similar actions. So I sincerely hope to see the same or similar actions to be taken to protect Cupertino residents and the communities. If I still have time, I also want to mention that.
Go ahead.
I also have concern on the safety issues other than the asthmatic and the other reasons people mentioned.
You're out of time? You're out of time at the moment, so I'll let you. Okay. We'll move on to the next person. Okay. Thank you, Lehman. Satish, Lisa, Vishal, Cindy.
Can you hear me?
Satish, we hear you fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Satish, a long-term resident here in Cupertino and an active community member. I'm the Vice President of the Cupertino Union School Board and the trustee. So I think most of the points which I wanted, it has been already covered, but I think a couple of issues which I wanted to bring up. So I do not want to repeat whatever has been told already. So one is today on my front door, I got already a notice from Verizon saying that they are going to start the work. Okay, and they obtained all the permits needed. Okay, this is a surprise for me. I thought that we are discussing this. There is a room for residents to, share their concerns and thoughts, and city is still being considered that all this input, and there will be a right decision will be made. That's what I've been thinking. But this evening, I got a notice on my on my front door. This is a really surprise. And in generally, I think there's a really, I think what you heard you heard everybody saying there's a consistency issue, right? In terms of like, between the cities, even within the city also we have, we have two different guidelines, like, parks and schools are 100 feet and the resident is like within, about 20 feet setback. I don't know. I think when you compare to other cities, definitely it's much, much lower. I think we should have had a chance to talk and fight for this, and that did not happen. Some communication issues we have, and I don't know whether the residents got enough time to share their thought. And if this should have been a little bit more transparent, my view, and everybody started realizing it much later. By then, already the permits and everything has been given. And really surprised and disappointed on this. Okay, I think that's all I have. I think most of the other points have been already shared, and hope you will reconsider this, and we will have more time for us to make a complete decision on this regard. Thank you very much.
You're on mute, Chair Wang.
I'm on mute. So we're going to Lisa Warren, Vishal Agarwal, Cindy Wu, Preeti Prakash, and Ting Chen. So.
Okay, me? Am I there?
We're on.
Okay.
Yes, you are, Lisa. You sound great.
Okay, I can't see my name up there. So first, before I forget to say this, Deb's city manager did point out last week that April 20th, there's a study session on the 5G small cell guidelines. So anybody and everybody that's on this call, spread the word to be there. She didn't give a time, I don't think, but April 20th. So look for it on the website and sign up for the Zoom for sure. And of course, the emphasis was we need to talk about aesthetics, which brings me to, are you kidding me? All we can care about is what they look like. I just don't get how health is not important, regardless of what the real dangers are. If there's any doubt in anyone's mind, and it can't be proven unequivocally, it's an issue. And if you can't talk about that, it's ludicrous.
Unfortunately, Lisa, we are prohibited from talking about that in any of these discussions.
I know you are. You don't have to comment about it, but I can. Okay, so I want to point out, I just sent you all an email that has a link to Modus Inc., who is actually the people that sent the letter that I got back in October. It's not coming directly from Verizon. It's coming from this Modus Inc., who are 5G network promoters or whatever they are. So if you're interested in anybody, it's MODUSINC. And on these envelopes, on mine, there's nothing. It just says this Jacob Olander, Modus Inc., care of Verizon Wireless. It doesn't give you any, it just looks like junk mail. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that have received them and not even opened them. It'd be really nice if these people would flag it, 5G coming your way or something, but just another thing to look out for. So I got my letter in October, and I think it was one of the first areas that went out. And my letter gave 21 days to respond, and it says that all inquiries will be logged and shared with the City of Cupertino Public Works Department prior to the issuance of any permits for this work. I don't know what the letters currently say, but in last week's meeting, City Council meeting, it seemed that it's now 10 days you have to respond, and there was no comment about them letting Public Works know about responses. In fact, there was a comment about the city hasn't heard anything. So are these people not sharing the comments like they say they will? I think that needs to be addressed, asked. I have utmost respect for the people that Peter, et cetera, who keep William, I think it is, come back and keep giving information. I think they need to be listened to. And I totally and wholeheartedly agree that if Cupertino has such low standards, that's a huge mistake. So please beef it up and get us where we need to be. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, you're at time. Thanks. Vishal, Cindy Wu, Preeti, and Ting Chen. Anyone else has a question, please raise your hand on Zoom, and we'll take a listen to what you've got to say.
Hi, this is Vishal Agarwal. I'm a resident here for Cupertino. And I must say that I'm shocked to just hear that this one letter that I got in mail about a cell tower coming right across my house is actually not one-off, and that there are many people on this call who received this letter citywide. It's a very systematic approach that Verizon is following clearly that's very underhanded. Clearly it is. Of course, I'm just to be on the record, there are three specific concerns I have, specifically when it comes to the installation in front of my house in Kerwin and Kim. Of course, it's going to be right smack in front of our bedroom and our house, this cell tower, right? The light pole with the cell tower on top, there is a concern about noise pollution, and all of that leads to property value. Absolutely. I think I'm absolutely concerned about what that's going to do to the property value. And whether there's a perceived risk, there is no risk, doesn't matter, right? Property value, half of that is perception that someone is willing to pay. So I think I'm very concerned about, all of those aspects, including aesthetics, including the noise pollution, and including the property value. And I think that, we have, the Planning Commission should look at some of the cities, what Palo Alto has done, right? There is a 1,500 feet setback from residential areas. Petaluma has undergrounding of these equipments with 1,500 minimum spacing. Fairfax, Mill Valley, Ripon, Marin County, San Francisco, they have all adopted much higher standards. And I think this is an opportunity for us to kind of adopt something like that and not be limited by just 20 feet. That's not acceptable at all, right? So there are precedent that other cities have set. And I'm hoping that this Planning Commission can set higher standards, right? I think we're all welcoming Verizon, but we just need that to be more planned. It needs to be in higher density zones where it will benefit more, not in the smack of my completely residential neighborhood. We are a neighborhood of single family homes after single family homes. And now I'm not sure how many such poles is going to be in our neighborhood. I think we all have to be very, very concerned about the approach that Verizon is taking.
Michelle, quick question. Do you have broadband access today? Are you able to choose broadband access?
Absolutely. We have broadband access. And again, I welcome all these innovations. I just want this to be more planned. I just want this to be planned in a way that higher density areas have these cell towers, not in a smack of the middle of a residential area. That's my ask. And I'm really hoping that this Planning Commission can take a much stricter stance in time to plan this rollout in our city in a way that it benefits everybody. This plan currently does not.
Thank you so much. We're out of time. So we go to Cindy Wu, Preeti, Ting, and then any other questions, please feel to raise a hand for the session to talk about 5G small cell towers.
Hello.
Hi, Cindy. Please welcome to the Planning Commission.
All right. I'm here again to speak about the cell sites, and my comments is, to me, there seems to be inadequate notice to residents of Cupertino. I think there should have been a citywide notice. I think that's what the other person just mentioned, that the 5G cells will be coming to your neighborhood. I think a 3 to 6 months notice should have been given to residents within 1,000 feet of the proposed cell sites to receive a notice 21 days prior to the installation of the cell site is just insufficient. There are inconsistency standards between residential and commercial properties. And I believe we should maybe issue provisional permits for maybe 2 or 3 years and review them when more deployments across the city is in place, so we kind of have an idea of what's going on. And, as the other residents talked about, the aesthetics of the cell site itself is just an eyesore. It's visible from our windows. I can see one through my bedroom window. It changes the neighborhood. I'm concerned that the cell sites will bring down the value of my house. Having the cell site close to my home will probably bring pause to a new home buyer. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, for your comments. Let's go to Preeti Prakash, Ting Chen. Those are the last two we have.
Yeah, hi, good evening. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for, giving me the opportunity to speak about this 5G cell tower issue. At the outset, I wholeheartedly agree with all the previous speakers and I'm with them with all their objections and all their reasons. Mine are the same. So why haven't we been given enough notice? Why such short notice? Just respond within certain 2 or 3 weeks. Why are these cell towers in residential areas? Why are there no setback ordinances? What is it in for me as a Cupertino resident? And today it's Verizon putting it up. Tomorrow it will be AT&T, then a whole load of other providers. We live right across Three Oaks Park. And the last thing I want is this beautiful park, the aesthetics to just go and just be cluttered with these cell towers. So I hope some thought is going to be given to this, and it's not going to be implemented right away without our input. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments, Preeti. Let's go to Ting Chen, and then we'll go to the commissioners. I probably should have gone to the commissioners first, but sorry about that. I wanted to get the residents in early. So I'm waiting for Seth to jump in. So,
hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ting. Welcome to the Planning Commission.
Hi, I'm Ting. Actually, I'm a new resident of Cupertino. Actually, I just bought my house here about 4 months ago. And I really, like, after attending tonight's meeting, I really feel like a bit overwhelmed in the sense that there are so many caring citizens, residents here, speaking about what they care about this community. Here, I think the issue is about the looking of these small cell towers. So some disclaimer, actually, my wife and I are planning to build a new 2-story house right at the site we bought. So basically, it's at the Kerwin and the intersection of Kerwin and the King Street. It's kind of the center of my neighborhood. So consider if you like place this unsightly upside down tower in the center of my community, and every passing neighbor look at it. This is actually not a really good looking structure. So because I'm in the process actually of applying permit for my new house, because I go through this process, and I basically adhere to all the Cupertino's requirement about the second floor setback, right? So because we want smaller second floor, we want bigger base, things go look better, steady. But if you look at this small cell design, it's actually the opposite, right? So it's kind of a triangle upside down. And then basically that create a lot of problems. Think about looking is one problem, right? Another is about safety, right? I remember the Senator Van Dunstan actually also mentioned what happened in a few days ago. There's a big wind, and that structure to be stable. And then it's actually right outside of my second story bedroom. I can see it from my bedroom window. So basically, and this structure, if it's unstable, it may hit my bedroom. And of course, the damage will be unimaginable. So I also consider about the impact to my property value, because almost I immediately lose my property value due to the construction of such a small cell light pole. Because imagine if I have a future home buyer, right, standing in my second story bedroom, he can immediately see the small cell light pole outside my window, right? So because today's buyer, they are savvy buyers, they will check online and look at all the signals. And then when they see the small cell tower, and I think it will deter a lot of buyers. So I'm really, as a homeowner here, worried about the resale value of my property down the road. So I actually, as a new resident, I really think Cupertino is a great city, and I hope the commissioners can consider basically postpone and deny such application. Thank you.
Well, appreciate your comments. Thank you, Ting. I don't see any other comments. Are there any that are different from the emails we have received, or are there similar ones that we have to notify? Beth?
There's nothing that's come in.
Okay, wonderful. There's nothing that's there. I will turn it over to the commissioners. I've been actively taking some notes here since that way we can share what has been said to date, and I think they break up in a couple issues. So I'll just share these with you, and then Commissioner Madi Patla, I think you have a comment, but I'll share these so people can see. These are so far what they are. I've tried to group them by item, aesthetics, business model, notifications, and safety. And so that way everyone has that and can easily take a look at it. So there we go.
So thank you, Chair. So I have two questions, right? So are we going to vote on this agenda item today?
There's nothing to vote. It's a discussion item. So there's nothing for us to vote on. It's a chance to get community input and to get that onto the record.
Okay. Second question is to the city attorney. So I'm one of the residents, that spoke up against, cell towers in front of city council like 2-3 months ago. So I just want to make sure that, can I participate with that, history? Can I participate in this discussion, or no, should I recuse myself?
It's fine because there's no application or proposed project being discussed here. It's just essentially a discussion. So you're sharing your experience, whether as a commissioner or as a citizen.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, looks like Vice Chair Scharf and Commissioner Saxena. We'll go in that order.
Okay, yeah, thanks to all the residents. I know this is a very important subject. I guess my question, and maybe the attorney can respond. I know cities like Los Altos have put in all these rules, but I also see that they've been sued by AT&T and Verizon. So I'm just wondering what actions a city can take that would not subject them to a lawsuit by the carriers for violating whatever federal regulations there are on approval of towers or small cells.
Thanks, Vice Chair. It's a great question. It's a largely untested question. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Palo Alto may be out in front on this issue in your area, and we're watching to see what happens there. I don't have an specific answer for you tonight, but as you've noted and the chair's noted, the city's abilities to restrict these types of facilities are somewhat limited in areas other than design and aesthetics. But as for what might be the outcome of litigation brought by these companies, I can't exactly say, but we'll be watching as these develop.
Yeah, thanks. I also wonder, we won't know this yet, what the change in the federal government in terms of the FCC, if that's going to have any changes now that if there's a new FCC commissioner, but that we'll have to see. I know the carriers have tremendous influence no matter who's in office. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Sure. Commissioner Saxena.
Yeah.
And then Commissioner Kapil.
So yes, I've been following this discussion offline with various residents for some time now. I think we, living in the Valley, all of us want to see progress happen. In a lot of ways, the network infrastructure in the US is lagging behind parts of the world now. Not something I expected 20 years ago. So there is a sense of getting things done and moving ahead. At the same time, I feel that it needs to be done in a manner which actually adds value and where the rewards justify the risks taken and the inconvenience caused. So right now we are in a situation where almost everybody in Cupertino, I would say overall majority of people have internet access at home. Just the nature of the demographics and the income levels we have at home here. So the need for having wireless access in residential area is comparatively less compared to maybe other places where, or places like commercial centers and so on, where you have a lot of people coming in and using the internet during parts of the day and who need wireless access. Given that context, I feel that we need to be more prudent in rolling this out and do it in a manner which builds confidence with the community and also ensures that the network providers don't have to compromise too much on the service they're providing. So there needs to be a balance. While not many people have talked about the health effects here, because typically many of these things or many of the effects may not be known, or it's very hard to prove why something happened. But I do realize, or I do appreciate that things break, shielding falls, a storm might come and take down whatever the radiation shield which is supposed to keep the radiation in. And it's those things which people normally don't test for, which can lead to problems which can go unchecked. So when somebody has a cell tower operating at a very high frequencies, like 20 feet from their bedroom, with not much of understanding of what happens if it malfunctions or something doesn't work, I do want to weigh the risks of that versus the reward. So I would be supportive of the city sort of enforcing that residential neighborhoods should be the last priority and only be done with a greater study and understanding of the potential risks, not only when things fine, but also when things break. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Saxena. Anyone else have a hand? Oh, Commissioner Kapil, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think I just want to touch upon the different aspects of it, from the things which you can counter these companies. I have worked in 5G companies, so I will tell you that the small antennas are short range and they are deployed mainly for the low cost. So if you can compromise on the cost, you can get a bigger antenna and at a appropriate location, and you can get the similar coverage. Second thing is that in New York City, they have taken care of, to a large extent, by there are a few companies who are taking care of the aesthetic aspect of the antenna. They are basically coverings on the antennas, and these are the things which, rather than me telling the city, the company who is basically providing these antennas, they should be informing the city that these are the options you have if you really don't want so many small antennas to be near the residence. Third aspect is that small antennas has a higher risk of security, although it may not be applicable in this scenario, but because they slice the channel bandwidth, and they on the different bandwidth channels, they can put a different highways, communication highways. So if you really are going to be using these small antennas, this may not be for a residential, this may not be the criteria to reject it, but this is one of the things which has to be taken to be considered. And then the last and the least, irrespective of the radiation, you need to. This is a 5G technology. It's a beam forming technology. Each device will have a beam going to it. This is unlike 4G. So there is a very specific radiation, and that radiation has to be below a certain level. I'm sure Verizon is taking care of it, but these are some discussion points with the service provider to take care of the aesthetics, to take care of the whether they can be replacing this many small antennas with a larger antenna in a more appropriate place, about the security. So these are the things which possibly the city can engage with the vendor.
Oh, those are great suggestions, Commissioner Kapil. And the other factor is the bandwidth. We're operating at a 6 gigahertz bandwidth instead of a 3.54 midway. So the higher the frequency, the higher the frequency, the more cell towers that are required. The lower the frequency, you have an issue really around bandwidth and ability to carry data. So those factors are in place, and the multiplexing that you're talking about also plays a factor if you can actually enable the multiplexing. So definitely things.
The one important thing is that probably somebody should look into the New York City case, where how they have done it with the more aesthetic aspects. They have taken care of it. There are a few companies who are providing enclosures, which reduces the signal loss, and at the same time reduces the noise and all those other aspects which a lot of people have talked about.
Excellent. Thank you. So, Commissioner Madapatla.
Okay. I would like to thank residents for coming and speaking up and expressing their concerns, and this shows the level of engagement we have in the community with things that are happening in our city. So thank you all. I hear their concerns, and I agree with Commissioner Saxena's statements. A lot of us, a lot of residents, have high speed, and they have choices. Comcast versus AT&T. Not that we don't have choices. So these high speed network connections, wireless connections in the residential areas is not a requirement at this point. So there is a value in having it in commercial locations and whatnot, but certainly in residential locations it doesn't make sense. And that I agree with residents and and Saxena's comments. I'm somewhat disappointed that we as a city didn't act like other cities have done. So I think it's not too late. We should do something about it. So I do agree that we should ask city staff to look into this and beef up ordinances around what is it we expect in our city to happen. Right? If Los Altos and a few other cities have established guidelines and enforcing it, why not us? So, that would be my take on this.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner Saxena. Anything you want to add? Your hand's up. That's fine. Okay, none on your end. Okay, I'm just gonna have a few things. I've been a technology analyst for 15 years covering technologies like 5G. There's definitely some amazing benefits for 5G. Important essential elements that are required for smart cities, the ability to deliver choice, convenience, and programming and content. So definitely a lot of benefits there. What I took from this meeting today, and I put together a list, and we'll enter this into the minutes or have that available for folks, is a number of things that residents had. I tried to categorize them, and some of you saw that. But it's anything from aesthetics in terms of real estate value, obstructive views of hills and parks, dark sky issues from additional poles, non-uniform standards being applied, restrictions by zoning not being applied for residential versus commercial, street corner restrictions that we've seen in other cities, 1,500 feet spacing between any 5G cell site, not within 500 feet of a school seems to be standard. I've done some comparison research between 16 different local zones, and there's a common item that's in there. 1,500 feet setback from residential property lines seems to be on the max for some cities. 150 away from residential property lines seems to be a minimum. There's questions about the number of vendors per pole, and then of course something I didn't know. I forgot about the noise regulations on the fans for these things. So something interesting to hear about. These are all things that can potentially be regulated. Business model: does the residential area really need 5G when we have broadband and two choices? It's an interesting question to ask. We don't have an inequity in broadband access that I know of. Maybe we should do a needs-based approach where we can think about, some area doesn't have two choices. Maybe we should prioritize those areas for polls and work with Verizon to proactively do that, or any other carrier who wants to do that. But there also seems to be some questions about notifications and permitting, things we could potentially do better as a city, where we look at failed notification processes here. Someone made a suggestion that the applicant must identify 5 other locations. Provisional approvals or expiration dates are something that's been suggested. I know some cities have done emergency ordinances to stop what's going on. Maps for approval. Someone said hundreds of 5G cell sites on light poles. Like where? They probably know where they want to put them. Why don't they tell us and give us advance notice? What do we do with other carriers who want to do this? Do we stick them all on the same pole? Can we make them share cell sites? We see that happen today in 5G towers. 5G non-small cell towers, like the big towers that you see up there. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile all share the same tower. What do we do with other carriers? Good question. More proactive and transparent communications from our city to our residents is something that's been said. And then, of course, inadequate notification processes. I think we're governed by FCC there, by how that process works. So there might not be a lot of wiggle room there. And then a lot of inconsistencies between residential and commercial. I've seen some cities pass laws for residential zoning in terms of the towers versus in terms of the small cell sites, not towers, small cell sites versus commercial. And then someone asked a very interesting question I had not thought about either. What happens if the pole smashes into my property? Who's responsible for liability when that occurs? And then another great question around safety, not health, ensuring cell towers are operating properly, not out of tolerance levels. So I think those were some great lists there, and factors that maybe we'll want to consider and actually add to the city council meeting. So I do thank the residents for bringing these issues to bear. So any other discussion points from the commissioners before we close this out?
So I forgot to mention one more point. Some resident raised a concern about things that could go wrong, right? And who is going to monitor, right? That's very important because if you're going to install, my understanding is there's already 110 permit applications submitted by Verizon in Cupertino. That's only covering east side of the Cupertino, and when they come to west side and all that, could be we could be around 300 poles with Verizon equipment, and there could be another 300 poles with AT&T equipment, another 300 poles with T-Mobile or Sprint or someone else, right? So who's going to monitor? In my view, more units out there, possibility of more things that could go wrong, right? So who's going to monitor all of these and make sure that these are indeed staying within the limits of what they're supposed to operate with in terms of radiation frequency and whatnot, right? And to me, it seems like we may need some regulation or ordinances around that, right? If you're going to operate these in the residential areas, it is what we need you to comply with.
Thanks for sharing those thoughts. I mean, there's another view here, right? I mean, it's interesting, right? The technologies are going to change. Spectrum allocation is going to change over time. So depending on what the new FCC does, we may get more efficient towers as well. So if you put all these older versions up first, you might get the benefits of what happens like newer and how do they get replaced. I know that's more of a carrier decision, but we should be thinking about the implications of newer technology that might help us. So one of the things to consider. So we could make some recommendations to council over time as to make suggestions. For now, we can actually submit this list so that they have that and they know that's what the residents' actually concerns were around aesthetics. I think that's an important piece. And then maybe request that council put this item on the works program so that we can actually discuss this or think about what ordinances that we can pass. It's also up to council to be able to issue an emergency ordinance, if that's correct. I just want to make sure I'm not saying the wrong thing to our city attorney, but they can issue an emergency ordinance from what I understand. Is that correct, Seth?
Issuance of emergency ordinances are within the council's power. I can't speak to what that would look like in this particular case, but that is a thing under state law. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, good. So that is in that piece. So, okay. I will conclude this conversation point, I guess. We'll close out and move to the next agenda item, if that's okay. We only have one other agenda item, which is really talking about future agenda items. And I was hoping that, Seth, you can explain what that is since we didn't go through the handbook. But there's a provision in the handbook on how we set up future agenda items. And our staff liaison, Pew, could also explain that as well. So
yeah, I think I'll let Pew handle that. Is that okay, Pew?
Okay, we are closing out on number 6. Oh, wait, do you have something to add, Pew? Sorry.
No, I was just going to pull up the handbook. If you could just give me a moment to pull it up.
Okay, while you're doing that, we have an agenda item here under staff and commission reports. After we do that, we talk about future agenda setting, and Pew's going to explain what that is. While we're doing that, for those that are new to the commission, staff and commission reports, have you gone to a meeting? Have you attended something else? It's your chance to share something. You want to make a public announcement or a PSA, that is your time to go do that. So just so you know, so that's what that section is.
All right, well, if I could share my screen, this might be helpful to kind of read through. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, blow it up. I'm getting older. Can't read anything.
My glasses are a testament to that. All right.
Yeah, your progressive contacts or something.
All right. So this is in the new commission handbook about agenda setting. So it basically states that each commission has a staff liaison who is responsible for preparing the agendas in consultation with the chair. And if a commissioner or staff member intends to bring up an item, that item must be included in the agenda because of the Brown Act. So for each meeting, the date should be scheduled for the chair and the staff liaison to set the agenda. And as Chair Wong is aware, we do have a meeting that's been set as on an ongoing basis. And commissioners can propose agenda items within the purpose of the commission to the staff liaison prior to the agenda setting, so that we can agree on a date that we can hear that agenda item to make sure that we have appropriate staff available and whatever support the commission might need. So essentially, we will maintain a list of the future agenda items that the commission plans to discuss. And the chair, the staff liaison, or any two commissioners can add an agenda item within the purpose of this commission's purview to that future agenda item list. And it'll be scheduled at the discretion of the staff and the chair and the staff liaison. And then we basically have a new placeholder on the agenda about this future agenda setting item. And once it gets put on the agenda, there is, it can't be removed from that future agenda, the list of future agenda items, unless it's discussed at an open session. And I guess that's it. That's really the process. So, yep. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Pew. And I think it's important to understand, like, we meet Wednesdays at a time to add those agenda items. And starting from this.
To discuss when those agenda items might be heard, particularly if there is a necessity to have any staff support. It certainly takes a lot longer than a day, because the agenda gets published on the Thursday, to make sure that we have staffing and appropriate documents available for the commission to discuss.
Yeah, so for example, you guys decide that, I don't know if we have jurisdiction on that, but if we want our street signs to be purple instead of blue, right? Two of you guys decide to go do that, we can do that, right? That's kind of what the future agenda setting is. It might not be scheduled for months because it's not that of a high priority, but you get the idea. Or it might be scheduled earlier because it's a huge priority because something's happened. So just think of it that way. So it gives you an opening to be able to add items to the agenda. So just find another commissioner to support you.
And it also, one of the goals of allowing this was also to kind of be in line with the city's work program, because there are things that staff is working on in terms of the work program. So it just makes for a smoother process if those items are related to that. So, but in essence, yes, there are things that could be brought up.
And I'll just add that this can happen both through the process Pew just described, as well as at the meeting. That's what this item is for, kind of live.
That's the placeholder on the agenda where the commission can discuss and decide what items it might want to hear in the future.
Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that, Pew and Seth. Thank you for that. So I'm going to go to staff and commission reports. If anybody has anything they want to share about meetings they've been to, conversations they've had, and go there. I'll start with Commissioner Maripala.
Nothing from my end.
Okay. We'll go to Commissioner Kapil.
Nothing from my side.
Okay. Commissioner Saxena.
Yeah, I attended the Economic Development Council meeting about 2 weeks ago. The focus there was on how to help the city and the businesses recover from COVID and the reopening. I think there are a lot of different agencies involved in setting those things, but in general, the overall spirit was that we should try and help local businesses recover as fast as possible from it. And I also wanted to thank Chair Wong for filling in for my mayor's meeting. I got sidetracked by an urgent offline issue, which and Commissioner Wang, Chairman Wang, very at the last moment jumped in to fill in for me. Thank you.
You can take my next meeting. It's all yours. Vice Chair Sharp.
So I did attend the Housing Commission Zoom meeting. Not a lot to report. They did elect a new chair, Connie Cunningham, a new vice chair, Tessa Parrish, and I look forward to attending their meetings. on a continuous basis. I also have been attending the California Alliance of Local Electeds meetings on Sundays as time allows. I missed the last one. But the one before the last one, we actually had a guest, famous person, Scott Wiener, came to the meeting, and that was a very lively discussion. So it's really important to, I know, as a city, we disagree with some of the things being done in Sacramento, but I think it's important to keep the lines of discussion open because in some ways we have similar goals. We may have different ways that we think we should achieve them. And I appreciate that organization because they continually have guest speakers that are legislators, both that agree with us, what we see for Cupertino and that disagree with us, frankly. So I think it's a really great group and I've learned a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, I would add to the vice chair's comments there. It's very important. I mean, it's nonpartisan. It's Northern California and Southern California. It's big cities and small cities. It's quite an interesting group of folks. So I attend those meetings here and there. I do have a question about meetings, and I do want to ask staff. Normally, we do like that League of Cities, like Planning Commissioners Academy. What's the story behind that? So, anybody know?
So that is put up by maybe Seth. Seth, do you have a better sense of,
I thought it was in person. It scared the crap out of me. It's like, Anaheim, let's all meet. And I was like, really? I was like, okay, but they went online, so it was good. So
yeah, I don't have any information about the league event, but I can certainly find out for you and relay that through Beth or Pew. You may already have signed up for, or maybe aware that the city's hosting a series of 80 1, 2, 3, 4
23, 4,
yeah. But I think that's separate from what you're saying.
Yeah, it's separate. I'm just asking because normally we attend these planning commission academies and everybody gets to get up to speed and it's a great place to go, except for the time they stick you on a boat and it's haunted, but that's a different story. So,
so this is just it's a I guess a refresher for some in terms of what the planning commission does. And it's an orientation for others in terms of, commissioners that have never served in a planning commission before. It gives you ethics guidance. There's classes there for ethics, land use, the different subjects. And I'm not entirely sure where that's being held this year, but as Chair Wong said, it might have been in Anaheim, but it is now virtual, as I understand it. But we can certainly find out more information and share it with the commission.
Okay, that sounds great. Hey, thank you. It says Virtual Academy, March 25th, 26th, 31st, and April 1st. I have no idea what that means. That's what it says on the site, in case people are wondering, and we'll take a look at that later. Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting if there's no any other objections. And with that, thank you for attending the City of Cupertino Planning Commission meeting for February 23rd. This meeting is now adjourned.
Bye-bye.
No gavel, but...
We might root for different teams, but we all respect the game.